Hello and welcome back to the EyeStorm Live Lounge, where we chat about current matters for women in the UK and all around the globe. My name is Mee Elverson, I'm the creator of EyeStorm, and today I'm talking to Dr Joanna Martin, who's going to talk about the Superwoman role and how we can step into our best energy to really create a better life and living for ourselves. Hello, Joe, and welcome, and thank you so much for joining me here in the Live Lounge.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Mee. Thanks for having me.
How are you? How do you say you're a Tassie girl? Do you say how are you?
How are you? Yes, and I'm fine, thanks. Yeah. We're still very Australian down there, so yes.
You've been in the UK for quite a long time now, haven't you?
Well, Greg and I've been here on and off since 2008, but we kind of settled more permanently when my son, who is now about to have his 10th birthday, was 1. So 9 years now we've lived in the Cotswolds, and I've loved every bit of it. It's so beautiful here. I think at the summertime especially, there is no better place in the world to be than in the countryside in England. The rest of the year, the weather leaves a lot to be desired, but not here because of the weather.
I'm actually going to the Cotswold on Friday, I think, so I might give you a call.
Oh, yeah, do. There's so much lovely street parties and things happening this weekend, so yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'll be there. Great. That's not what we're going to talk about, though. Joe, you are originally a doctor. You were originally an actress, actually. You were trained as an actress, weren't you? And then you stepped off the stage to become a doctor.
I did drama the whole way through school, and I did through university. I was directing plays and acting as well. So it was kind of like both, but I was studying medicine and doing, and performing and doing a few professional things whilst at university. But yeah, originally I qualified as a doctor and then left medicine to go study acting professionally in Sydney. So that was the mad moment.
Yeah, let's come back to that, but we do need to say what you do now, I think, for those who might not know you, although you are very well established here in the UK and around the world. And you're a fantastic speaker, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you are guiding a lot of women through, a lot of successful women through to the next level with, I guess, one of the biggest women communities and organizations in the country now.
Yeah, sure. So the organization is called One of Many, and we support women who want to increase their impact in the world without burning out. So we have a great number of women who are working inside organizations. They're often managers and so on, who want to, they're feeling that call to make a bigger contribution inside their organization, but they're terrified if they do that, it's just going to mean more hours, more stress, more whatever. So they're kind of reticent to look at it. We also get a number of small business owners who are now very busy with the juggle themselves, trying to run their own business and do things, but largely professional women who care about the world, want to make an impact in the world, and want to do that without exhausting themselves and compromising their values in the process. So yeah, we support them through live trainings. We have our One Woman conference coming up just in a couple of weeks. In fact, 1 week. It's next weekend. And then we have ongoing events and coaching and so on that we support women with over time, if they kind of resonate with our approach.
So I've been to a few of your events and I've seen you speak a lot, and you're amazing at what you do. And for me, what you have is that perfect balance with understanding that women are slightly different in the way and their needs and the support they need, but without going totally into snake goddesses and to woo-woo, which I find that we see quite a lot of, especially living in Brighton. It is very much about that whole very spiritual place, which I'm definitely spiritual, but sometimes it goes a little bit far from me. And I found that you found just such an incredible balance in that. Did that come naturally, or did you have to sort of seek that out and find your space? Because also as a GP from the start, that is obviously quite a pragmatic job to do. So how did you find that balance?
Yeah, I always say I've been equal parts scientist and seeker, and still I have these two, frankly, warring parts of my personality, but they coexist quite happily. They just don't agree with each other. So depending on, whatever the problem is, I'll usually seek the counsel of both parts and we'll find a great solution. And I think because of that, my own spirituality has also had to always be very pragmatic. If it's not palpable for me and experiential for me, then I'm not good at having faith just because someone tells me I should have faith in something. I'm like, no, 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 I want to experience it in some way. And so with One of Many, although what we do is not what I would call spiritual, there is space for the spiritual. And so in our community, we have, it's very practical tools, very sensible leadership based stuff with an appreciation that women, as you've said beautifully, have different needs, because being a woman in this culture demands things differently of us, but also our biology. If we are, if we're women that are born into a biologically female form, because in our community we have women that aren't as well, but the culture still impacts them. So no matter kind of what space, what kind of context we're in, we do have a different lived experience, and therefore we need tools that support that and support us in that way. And what I think the women coming into our community appreciate is that there is space, as I say, for them to tune into that something greater, but it's not the headline. It's not the only way to be feminine is through goddesses or whatever, as you've said, because I've always thought of One of Many as kind of a gateway organization for women who are wanting something more for their lives, but they're not going to go do a meditation class. They're not going to go, go kind of to that end for fear of, as you've said, woo-woo. Don't get me wrong. I'm very woo myself, and I appreciate everything that I do, but that's not the content of what we share, because we have women in our community who are Muslim. We have women in our community who are Christian. We have women in our community who are, spiritual and into nature. We have women in our community who are hardcore scientists and academics. And if you can't see it and measure it, then it doesn't exist. There's space for everybody. And I think that's one of the beauties of it, is we have this incredibly diverse community where there's space for everything.
I love that. Right now we're at a time where it's just becoming increased, the importance of diversity and the way we accept and appreciate different cultures is, for me, incredibly important. And that we don't confront each other, that we have peace with each other and look away from, for me, looking at religion has to be put aside sometimes in certain contexts, especially in business, because we are different. And we need to look at people and organizations and what we want, what goals we have, because often they are the same. But sometimes I find that religion can come and culture can come in the way of that. And of course, we know that we clash a lot around that. So an openness and understanding is key, isn't it, to just move to the next level of appreciation and flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think women want a space where they can feel safe to be all of themselves, and that may include the spiritual aspects of them, but where they're, because I think this is something that we're also very hungry for in our businesses or in the corporate environment. We can sometimes feel like we're not our most authentic self, and there is like a part of us that we keep hidden or keep quiet. And so I think a space where we can show up as all of ourselves, or at least safely explore all of who we are and let it be seen and visible in the world, is powerful, not just for us at a kind of personal and healing sort of level. Yes, it helps us be less stressed, but that's how we actually impact change. When we're fully self-expressed and we're able to bring our full confidence and gravitas and the entirety of our experience into the boardroom or into our organizations or our businesses, when we're not hiding a part of ourselves away, but it's all present, doesn't all have to be talked about. We need to be really clear about that. It does, I'm not saying that we have to, be vocal about all that we are, but we have to embody all of who that we are. And that's where I think confidence and gravitas lands. And that's where, therefore, we can influence change.
What are the tools you work with during your training and coaching?
Yeah, look, there's a lot. There's a lot. We certify coaches now, and I look in their members library and there's over 40 different things, and that's just the basics, right? But I think central to the work, and I think what a lot of women really resonate with in our work, is this shift from, we work a lot with archetypes, and it's a shift from what I refer to as Superwoman, who is very much the archetype of our times. She's a high achiever and does it all, and she's super busy, and she concentrates on making everything work for everybody, and she's smoking hot, and she's at the spa because that's what you should do, not because it's particularly relaxing. Like she's get it. I can have it all. I don't know about you, but I was brought up to believe I could have it all, but it would never with the conversation of did I want it all, and did I want it all at the same time. So we really specialize and support in helping those women who are either in Superwoman mode or rebelling against her, thinking that if Superwoman's the only way for impact, I don't want to do that. We have women in both of those camps. And then we help them to access a different operating system, and we help them to then develop a relationship with what we call the 5 women's power types. And these 5 women's power types are archetypes. They're aspects of ourselves. We all have access to these in greater or lesser degrees, and each one of them offers us tools and skills and resources to be able to deal with almost every problem or opportunity that life wants to throw our way. The reason I work with these tools is because back when I was working, before I was 30, I burned out at around the age of 30. I'd been, through med school. I'd then discovered coaching and training, and was doing that very successfully. I was leading trainings for audiences of up to 3,000 a time. I'd be in LA one weekend, London the next weekend, and Sydney the next weekend. It was a very glamorous life, but I was shattered, absolutely shattered. And so I stepped away from that organization where I was delivering a lot of training, and did nothing for a good 4 months that turned into 10 months. And during that period, I thought, I need to find a different way of being if I want to be sustainable in the long run. And I'm a great role modeler. So I looked around in the world at the time and looked for role models of strong women, because I didn't want to let go of that strong kind of what I now would call warrioress energy that is a big part of who I am, but who were also able to not do it to the point of exhaustion. And the honest truth was I could see none. I saw very, very few back then. This was, in the early 2000s. I saw very, very, very little. Or every visible female leader was a bull-breaking Superwoman. There wasn't any. So I turned to archetypes at that time. Like there's got to be examples. And so in working with these archetypes myself, and I then came together with my content collaborators, Annie Stoker and Susie Heath, we shaped these together in a way that is very accessible for professional women to develop relationships with these 5 different energies, and therefore access an energy which is sustainable, and it's very practical, very grounded, and helps us to then be able to increase, our effectiveness in the world, but not at the cost of our physical health, our relationships, and so on, which had certainly been the case for me in the past.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's really interesting with these different types of energy that you mentioned. Do you think we can step into an energy then? Can we call out a particular energy?
Oh, yes. I think this is the thing. I think women, or humans in general, make the mistake of thinking that we are one person, right? We think that our personality is one way. And I mean, almost every woman I've spoken to is like, well, there's the part of me that just likes to chill out and read a book. And, there's a part of me that really likes to get out in the garden and dig. And there's a part of me that just loves what I do and loves being decisive. Well, it's not that you're a fierce and decisive person all the time. And it's not that you're a couch potato that likes to sit around and read books all of the time. That's all of who you are. So when we actually consciously develop and build relationships with these different energies inside of us, we can consciously bring different parts of us for different results. So, just for instance, the 5 that we talk about, that we think if you have access to these 5, you've got, the resources to handle most of life's problems and opportunities. The 5 are the warrioress. So she's definitely the one who gets shit done and, makes projects get started, and she'll push through to completion if necessary. But she also does it playfully and in an expanded state, not like Superwoman, who's very tunnel vision. There's a playfulness around it, which is lovely. We talk about the mother power type, and whether or not someone is a biological mother. The mother energy inside all of us is the part of us that has capacity for boundless love and acceptance, who can see past differences and accept people, other humans, for the truth of who they are, and, be unconditionally loving and unconditionally accepting. We talk about the lover energy, and the lover energy is the part of us that is, yes, centered in sensuality and sexuality, but she's also the part of us that tends towards self-care. She's the part that knows that we've only got this one body in this lifetime, and if we don't look after it, it's going to be, if you don't have access to lover, you burn out. That's kind of the main reason we need her at a very practical level. We talk about the queen, who can see a vision for the future. She's good with structures and boundaries and decisions. And then there's what we call sorceress, which is the part of us that connects to whatever we call source. So whether that be God or quantum physics or the universe or my intuition or higher self, it doesn't matter what we call it. There's a part of us that does connect to something greater, and who is very wise and very good at whatever she does. You're behind the camera and in front of the camera, but in the realm of the visual, that's where your sorceress plays. That's where your deep, when you can do something so well you make it look like magic, that's sorceress in action. So we work with these 5 energies, and we help women to develop a conscious relationship with them. So if they're going into a job interview and they know that they want to show their confidence, their gravitas, their vision for the company, we would, coach them to activate their queen energy and take that in. Or if they're going into a performance review with someone who's struggling, they might bring a balance of mother energy so that person feels seen and witnessed, and some queen energy to set clear boundaries for performance enhancement. So they're really very, very practical tools, but it doesn't live in the head, it lives in the body. And I think that's one of the things that we do beautifully, is help people to access that.
I think that's brilliant. In my training, I use a secret visual persona that people can think about when they step in front of the camera. So it might be, the confident teacher, because people don't feel that confident, but once they call themselves that, they can just step into, and it's not a role play as such, it's just that strengthening tool that you have for yourself inside of you that just changes you slightly into the right energy, as you say. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Let's go back to Superwoman for a while. Can I ask where you think she comes from? How has she developed?
So I think the heritage of Superwoman's an interesting one. If we look at it over the past few millennia, right? It's been only in the last 60 odd years that women have been able to enter the workforce. Prior to that, because of the cultural paradigm that we've lived in most countries that this will reach, certainly, we have been the homemakers. We've been the head of households. We've been able to bring our queen energy to running a household. We've been able to bring our lover energy to, our home and our spaces and our partners. And mother energy has been there, but we weren't welcome in the professional world. And then our awesome foremothers and aunts and grandmothers fought for us to get the vote and get a place at the table and come, the first women doctors and the first women lawyers and the first women everything, in the last, since the second wave of feminism, if you like, in the 60s and 70s, we are now at the professional table. But here's what's happened. We've arrived, we fought, and it took a lot of, I think, superwoman energy to get there, to say we can do this just as well as men. We can play this game just as well as men. And we earned the place there, right? We fought for that place. But what didn't happen was that the other stuff never left our plate. Being the ones that were accountable for the emotional well-being of the family stayed on the plate. Being the ones in the world that are still buying the birthday presents and booking the plumbers and often managing the household finances, all that stuff, and the laundry and the whatever else, like that stuff often never left our plate. I'm not saying in some domestic partnerships that is not, in mine, that is absolutely not the case. I hardly touch the laundry. My husband's awesome. We're very good domestic partnership like that. But as a general rule, culturally, there was kind of like, okay, well, you can come and be just as good as men at these things. Sure. That's fine. But still, please take care of everything else. It was never said out loud, but culturally, that was the first evolution. And so Superwoman was born, I think, in response to that drive to now have it all, to be it all, to do it all, not let a single ball drop. So we got so damn good at balancing and juggling more and more and more. But the women that I speak to are really experiencing, when they're in Superwoman mode, a consistent feeling of failure. Like they might be achieving their goals, but they don't feel fulfilling because they're not, there's these other things that they're not feeling, fulfilled by. Sometimes the goals that we're setting for ourselves aren't even ours anymore. I was born in the 70s to a mum who was a pharmacist and a father who was a pharmacist. There was an expectation, not a pressure, but that I would go to university and that I would have a career, which is great. I mean, God, I could not be, I take my hat off to mums that full-time mum, we all full-time mum, but you know what I mean? That is their full-time time investment is their children. I know that I would have gone crazy if that was me. I need something external. I have a purpose that I feel I've got to fulfill in the world. But there was still the unconscious programming and have the kids and get married and it better be a bloke, and all of these things, by the age of 35, and that pressure is immense. So Superwoman is, I think, the response to that. And then the media tells us we also have to be lovely and beautiful and wealthy and, wear all of these clothes. And so that's how Superwoman is born. She's not our fault. It's a cultural patterning and programming that we have.
And you're trying to break that pattern or make it easier from the inside of women, really. Do you think that is possible, that we can fit it into the system we have now, or do we need to change the system for women to be able to actually be completely we have parity in our society?
I think the answer is both. So this is there is absolutely no doubt that systems need to change. One of the things I often say is, of course, women are fit for leadership, but is leadership fit for women? And I think that we have to make structural and infrastructural changes to the expectations that we have of our CEOs and our leading politicians and so on. Like, politics does not call forth a human, humanity. The nature, the culture of politics doesn't call forth that. And so, of course, women are not jumping in droves because they're going to be shredded, like why would you want to do that to yourself? And, leading a huge organization, similarly, this expectation that we can't hold a vision for an organization and also be a family person. So therefore, yes, infrastructurally and structurally things have to change, as well as paid parental leave needs to be equal for men and women, etc., etc. Yes, that has to happen. And unless we do the you might think of it as a software upgrade internally, if Superwoman is going into different cultures, and I have these conversations with many organizations at the moment that are coming to me and saying, look, we've done all the policy changes, and they have, they've got good policies and good infrastructural changes, but the culture's not changing. That then needs a kind of double-pronged approach. One, to support everybody in the organization, men, women, non-binary alike, to be able to be open about being 100% human at work. But also it needs women to let go of their personal belief systems about what effective looks like, right, and be able to access these different ways of being. So I think there's kind of 3 gears, if you like, if we want to make this change. There's the infrastructural, there's the unconscious bias and cultural, and then there is the third one we need to pay attention to, which is the personal power center of women themselves. If we still think we've got to do it from Superwoman, we won't leave work, even if we're allowed to leave work at 5, or we're allowed to use flexi time to go to the kids' nativity play or whatever. They won't do it if they don't feel centered and powerful in their ability to choose that.
Yeah, I love what you said before about women being absolutely fit for leadership, but is leadership fit for women? That says so much. Jill Whitty Collins, who wrote the book Why Men Win at Work, you will see an interview with her on the Live Lounge as well. She says, always think 50%, and I love that as well. It's these little nuggets that are so good because they say so much about the system and about the unconscious bias and how we've been just breeding this culture, and women have fitted in all the time, and we're still manipulated to think that we don't have the same, whatever it is we're talking about that men have in leadership roles, and we have actually that and many more qualities that work very well for leadership. And we've seen that compassion and politics do go together. Absolutely. We can.
This is the beauty now. We actually have some beautiful examples of what I would call soft power leadership visible in the world. It seems to me that half of the Scandinavian countries are led by beautiful examples of this. And one of my personal favorites is Jacinda Ardern, who's the recent Prime Minister of New Zealand. I found it really interesting, actually, when she stepped down saying, I haven't got anything left in the tank. So many people saw that as a failure. I'm like, no, that's what it looks like. She has served to her point of contribution. The first sitting prime minister to have a baby whilst running a country
during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, that is not a failure. It's ridiculous that this cultural belief that we have that unless something continues forever, it's a failure. Your marriage is a failure if it doesn't continue forever, even if the first 10 years were wonderful and then you got to a point. Or your business is a failure because you did 10 years of amazing business where it was profitable and you drew a great thing and then you decided to wind it up. So it's no, these things are not failures. When the leader of a country says, do you know, I've made my contribution and it's now time to pass the baton because I've got nothing left in the tank, that's a fucking success. That's what a human looks like, people. Right? That's what we want. And I think that's the piece, as you say, we do, if we allow ourselves to feel into, and that for me, that was a lover energy move that she made. She felt into where her self-care was. She couldn't keep the tank full enough to be able to do a compassionate job. Great. It was time to take time to find a different expression for her leadership in the world, and she will, and it'll be extraordinary. I wish, some of the men who lead some countries around the world would take a leaf out of that book and go, what are you doing to care for yourself and to stay human and bring your humanity into what you're doing? And I think at the point where we lose our humanity is the point that we shouldn't be leading anymore. We need to stop, replenish, take a sabbatical, have a rest, and come back at it.
There's quite a few male leaders who need to hear that right now in the world. I wish they could listen up to you, Jo. That would be Make a
Uh,
huge difference. Fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about the One Woman event coming up. What is that all about? What happens there?
Yeah, so One Woman Conference is our annual gala conference where we have, I don't know, about 50% of the women there are women who have done some of our programs. You know, they're our certified coaches, they're our Lead the Change graduates and so on, where it's an opportunity for them to come and reconnect and plug back in and have a great weekend. And then about half of the women are brand new to our community who might have heard me speak somewhere, or they're a guest of one of our coaches, or all different ways that people come and find us. So it's funny. It's both an introduction to our tools and the most incredible networking opportunity to meet other women who are leading in their own small or large way. You know, I think a lot of women who come along, first of all, like, I'm not a leader. And then, you know, we have the conversation like, actually, you are. But they don't often feel that way. And they, over the course of the weekend, you get really clear on where you might be stuck in terms of that next evolution of where you want to go. You set a vision for yourself, for your life, and for your vocation, if that's relevant. And we basically let go of the barriers that are holding you stuck. You know, those feelings of not being good enough, or lack of confidence, or not having a profound enough network to support it. So yeah, it's part transformational event, part networking event, and part celebration.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've been to a few. I'm coming to yours next
Yay!
weekend. I'll be behind the camera. And I don't know if you actually are quite aware of how my journey, because I met you the first time I was sitting next to you at lunch at Fort Solent, if you remember,
Oh,
with
yeah,
Sandra Paul.
right.
Yeah, so I had you on one side, and we were chatting, and I think you asked, or someone asked, are you going to Joe's event? And it was just that weekend. And I was
Yeah, it
like,
was the following
I
weekend,
didn't
wasn't it?
know who you were, to be honest. This was quite a few years ago. And I looked up the event and there was space and I couldn't believe it. And I just booked it and I went up and I was absolutely blown away. It was so powerful. I laughed and I cried and I made connections. And then I ended up sitting next to Sophie Noonan from the Hunger Project. So the General Secretary of the UK Hunger Project. So I was drawn into that as well. And that led to me meeting someone who's now one of my very best friends here in Brighton, Helen Guinness, who's one of the previous secretaries. And I went out to Uganda and visited one of their centers. So there were so many things coming out of that event. And then the next time I went, I was really worried when I came into the room because it's a lot of people there in a big room, but I don't know anyone here. And, you know, you slowly get to know a few people. And then the next event I went to the year after, it was like a constant stream of like, hi, hello, how are you? How are you? How are you? But it also opened up my I guess what I'm doing now for EyeStorm, that's kind of the beginning of that journey when I opened up towards supporting women, because I wasn't particularly interested in women, in supporting women. I thought women were a bit of a pain, and because of all these reasons we've been talking about, because that's what I saw, right?
Yeah.
But I've shifted my training to support just women in my program, in certain programs and training, because I know that we need a bit more support on a long-term basis. We need a more holistic support. We have different fears, we have different blocks, and they need to be released from quite a deep sort of fundamental level from many, many years ago. So thank you from me for opening up that journey. You were a big piece of many little pieces that were just dropping into my life at a time when I guess it was the right time. So yeah, it's been brilliant to have you here talking today in the live lounge. So thank you for taking time for that. And I'm going to see you and hopefully many of the viewers next end of next week as we record this, and have a look at one of many. The website, we'll put it here, which is, I think, www.
The basic website, the normal website is oneofmany.co.uk. And then the conference has its own website, which is onewomanconference.co.uk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Mee. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching this episode. And of course, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and you will see more coming up every week now. Take care and have a fantastic week. Bye for now.